Hey guys, today I want to talk about camps in Heroes of the Storm, as well as my 4 rules on when you should be taking a camp. Camps are these like really strong things that you can get during a map, during any map. They're on every single map that will push, or sometimes give you items, but they will push to put pressure, to alleviate pressure, or just to be a distraction. There's a variety of uses of camps, but what I keep seeing is that people in lower ranks and even way into the higher ranks, they don't know when to get camps. They just get camps when they can and they just go for it. And there's particular reasons that you want to get specific camps at specific times, but every map's different and there's so many different variables that I've created 4 simple rules to follow on when to get camps. So, here are my 4 rules. All right? Screenshot if you want to. That's up to you. The first rule and the second rule are kind of similar. It's alleviate pressure and create pressure, and I'm going to show you an example of both of those. The third rule is distract enemies. This is what you'll see most common in higher rank, where people are on Battlefield of Eternity and they get a Shamon Camp before an objective, or they're on Cursed Hollow and they get a camp before an objective that splits up the enemies, right? So distracting enemies is one of the better ones and also one of the more common ones. And the bottom one is enemy camps when you can. This means your camps are used as a tool to either create pressure, alleviate pressure, or distract the enemies. But the enemies' camps are simply a reward. They're a reward for taking out enough enemies to where you can take it safely. Or if the enemies are split enough and they make mistakes, you can take it safely. Enemy camps you should be taking whenever you can, because what's happening is not only are you getting value and likely creating pressure, you could also be distracting the enemies, but you're taking away these tools from the enemies at the same time. So, what do I mean by distracting enemies? Well, let me show you the most common example of distracting enemies with Battlefield of Eternity. So there are 2 major camps that I want to talk about on this particular map, and these camps are the Shamon Camps. They're right here and they're right here. These camps will push down this way or up this way forever unless they are stopped, which means they are a strong distraction if you get them right as the objective spawns, because it puts the enemies into having 2 different decisions. They go, wait, should we be dealing with this camp that's going to be pushing forever, or should we be defending, or should we be attacking? They have 3 different ideas, and it puts them into a cognitive dissonance. Now, a cognitive dissonance is a psychology term that essentially means a conflict within. It means that you have 2 ideas, beliefs, or behaviors that are contradicting each other, and this creates a sense of anxiety, and it also creates a sense of stress, which means if you're creating stress and anxiety in the enemies every time that you get a camp, you're putting them on tilt. So, you want to be creating these distractions, as it's going to be creating a cognitive dissonance within the enemies. So in this particular map, this is very common. But the problem is that everyone always gets these now. It's just such a common thing that everyone does it. So, I have just kind of this random trick that I use in this map where I bait the enemies into acting like we're going to steal their camp in between objectives, so that they get their camp early, we can clear it, and then go get ours before the objective, and then we still win the objective. So that's particularly on this map. I'm going to bring up another map because this is the best example of a distraction, but Braxis is the best example of a creating pressure or alleviating pressure. So Braxis is a big pet peeve of mine because a lot of times people don't know what to do if their solo laner is losing or if their 4-man's losing. Let's say, for example, you're on a solo and your 4-man is losing, because this map usually always goes with a 4-man or solo laner. Well, if you're solo and you're winning hard, you can take your camp, and then you can have this pushing the whole time as you help out bottom lane. Or let's say that, for example, you're the solo lane on this team, and you could actually win the lane. You can kill the enemy. You can go and quickly take this camp, which adds pressure and allows your team to take the objective. Or if you're winning the 4-man, you can go up and take your camp, which will, again, that'll alleviate the pressure that the enemy has on your solo laner, which allows your solo laner to win this lane. You can go back to your lane. So you can either create pressure or alleviate pressure by utilizing the camps. But let's say, for example, it's just a 4-man versus a 4-man, and it's kind of a stalemate. If you were to get your camp, all that's going to happen is the enemies are just going to clear this camp, and then it's not going to do anything. So, because it's going to be in the same area as the lane, so it's not going to do anything. And that's why I feel that people keep misusing the camps, especially on this map. They get them at just the wrong times and they do nothing. But if you can get the camps at the right times by getting a camp that's actually going to apply pressure and allow you to win a lane that you weren't winning, or alleviate pressure, which allows your person to go back, get health, get fountains, then allows them to come back into the lane with full life and win the lane. Either way, it's going to allow you to win these objectives. So there's one last thing that I want to share before I go, and you need to be creative with all of these maps. Every map has their own things. I can show you another one really quick before I move on. Let's look at Cursed Hollow, for example. So the orange areas are where tributes are spawning. The blue areas are where there are camps. And there's a camp that pushes in every lane on this map. There is a... if you're trying to push on bottom, there's a boss that goes bottom if you're on blue side. There's a boss that goes top on red side, as well as the other lanes. There is siege camp that goes top on blue side, as well as a bruiser camp that goes mid. So here's the thing about this. What I recommend on this is you apply most of your pressure into the lane that you have your boss on, because your own pressure, your own 3 or 4 man team, you want to be on the lane that you have your boss. Now, why do I say this? I say this because if you, let's say we're blue team for this game, I'm going to give you a strategy, right? You have one person here, and 3 people here. And you can move your 3 people here between these 2 lanes. It takes a little while, but it is worth it to alleviate pressure, help them out, let them go back, whatever. But what you should be doing is, well before the first objective spawns, you should be getting this camp and you should be going bot and applying as much pressure bot that forces the enemies to counter by also going bot. And what this does is it makes it where if you take this, one boss is going to be the biggest distraction of this entire game. But the other reason why is because this allows you to stay as 4 bot and allows your solo laner to push to get a camp and then to push middle or top while there's more objectives going anywhere else. And if there's objectives that spawn down here, all you have to do is get a camp up here and you win. But if the objectives spawn down here, you're already down here, so you can set up and you can kill people as they're trying to invade. This allows Cursed Hollow to be a win the majority of the time as long as you can apply this pressure by utilizing camps. If you happen to be on this side, on red team, what you want to be doing is you want to be focusing on top lane. So you want to have your few people up here and forcing them up here, and then you can have your solo laner get the camp and apply pressure down here, which may split them, and then you force them up here by just continuing to push continuously. And if the objectives are here, you win. If the objectives are down here, you can get a siege or something and go down and try to fight. But most likely you've already created enough pressure to where you can set up in this lane if they're down here, or you can be over, rotate down here while they're distracted with camps. So it's all about utilizing the camps, getting creative with the camps. Before I go, I want to share a quote by Sun Tzu, which is, to subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill, as well as supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting, and finally, it is best to win without fighting. What I mean by that is if you can split the enemies with camps, what happens is the enemies no longer want to fight you at an objective because they don't have the correct amount of people to fight you, which means that you win an objective without fighting. And I will say that Sun Tzu mentions without fighting a lot, because for him, if he didn't lose his men during a fight, it was a huge victory. As well as you didn't have to use as many weapons, you didn't lose anything, and you didn't give anything to the enemies. So it's the same thing in this game. If you can win an objective without having to fight the enemies, it is a supreme excellence, a supreme victory, and whatever else you want to call it, it is definitely a victory. So, to put this back into perspective, these are the 4 things that you want to focus on. My 4 rules of when you should be getting a camp. Don't just get a camp because you feel like it. Try to understand, is your camp accomplishing any of these 4 things? If it is, feel free to get that camp. If you have any other questions or any other tips, throw them in the comments below. And if you like these style of videos, feel free of letting me know. Also, I always like subscribers. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.